What's going on, guys? Caleb with Central Detail here, and today I'm going to show you how I like to do a full detail on a car like this. This is a Porsche Cayman GTS 4.0. It's a daily driver, but it's also a track car. I don't see, I already did a kind of a walk around. I don't see a lot of, rubber marks on the front end here from it being tracked. Whenever a tire gets kicked up and starts hitting the panels here, and it leaves behind rubber residue. I don't see any of that going on, so thankfully I don't have to deal with that today. But other than that, it's gonna be pretty straightforward. I really wanna go ahead and dial in these wheels and tires. They are pretty rough. Definitely need some love there. I haven't looked at the interior yet. It's probably gonna be pretty straightforward, but I will be starting with the interior. That's how I like to start my details, because I do blow out the interior before I start cleaning it. And whenever you blow out the interior, all that dust is gonna go and land on the outside of the car. Definitely don't want all that dust on the outside of the car after I just detailed the outside. So yeah, let's go ahead and I'll pull you guys in to the interior, and then we'll start there. Also, I am working in a garage, so it's gonna be a little cramped, a lot of tight shots. So bear with me, I'll do my best for you guys to make the viewing experience a little enjoyable today. It's about to get pretty noisy in here, but I'm gonna go ahead and start blowing out everything. That's gonna loosen up any dust that's kind of embedded in the fabrics here, especially the carpets. It's just gonna help produce a more dust-free result. All right, so starting out, the steering wheel is wrapped in leather, and I'll bring you guys in closely here in a second, but there's just caked up makeup here. That's natural for a female-driven car. I always start with the cockpit here, the driver's seat, and I kind of work my way up and out on in, if that makes sense. So I'll start with the dashboard and kind of work my way in, because typically your dashboard is going to be cleaner than your steering wheel area, your center console. So I want to start with the cleanest and bring it down to the dirtiness, the dirtiest. But point out the steering wheel right off the bat, it's got makeup caked all on it. That's pretty natural for a female-driven car. I'll bring you guys in close here in a second to kind of show you the condition it's in, and then I'll show you how I clean it. All right, so you can see how it's kind of ashy looking, especially down here at the bottom. That's just, foundation and all that good stuff. I don't really know what kind of makeup it would be. I'm not a woman, but let me pull you guys out real quick, and then I'll show you how I clean it. Okay, so everything I used to clean, well, pretty much everything I'm gonna be cleaning the entire interior with is gonna be this bucket with a little bit of rinseless water in it. A product called Polestar. It's a textile cleaner. It's also pretty good for plastics. It's a pH neutral product. So it's really safe for everything. And then a Scrub Ninja. This Scrub Ninja has kind of stiffer fibers, but it's not like a Brillo pad. It's quite soft actually. And it's really good for agitating and exfoliating leather, Alcantara. This isn't suede. I haven't seen suede on an interior ever in my life, but Alcantara, leather, plastic even, it's really good for really cleaning the surface. It's a lot more efficient than spraying and using a tiny detail brush to get in all the cracks and crevices and your big flat surfaces like this. A lot of the analogies that's used in the detailing industry for these Scrub Ninjas versus something like a detail brush is your detail brush is a weed eater, and this would be your lawnmower. So it's really good for getting a whole lot of surface area. But I'm gonna use this for everything on the interior, like I said, more or less. And then I'm gonna use Polestar for pretty much everything except for stuff like the glass. And the reason why I have this bucket of rinseless solution, it's DI water with a little bit of rinseless solution in it, and that's gonna help clean this as I go. So I'll probably clean half of the steering wheel because it's pretty dirty, dunk it in my bucket, really wring it out, rinse it out, so that way I have a fresh, clean Scrub Ninja for the other surfaces. That way I'm not obviously spreading contamination all throughout this vehicle. It's gonna help with creating a really good product here today. Also, I love these interior towels. This is the Rag Company's 365 Edgeless towel. These are amazing. They're expensive for detailing as a business, but they are so worth it for, once again, producing a really good end result. All right, so my scrub Ninja is already nice and cleansed. So What I'm gonna do is take my Polestar. This is diluted for about 10 to 1. The great thing about Polestar also is it leaves behind a really nice finish. It's really safe, and it leaves behind protection. A lot of guys use a little foamer for this kind of product. You don't really need to do that. I like to use it in a spray bottle because I can move a lot more product more efficiently. It just saves me time. There's really not a whole lot of situations where you even need a foamer unless you have to be like super precise. But even then, for the most part, you'd be spraying your product directly into your Scrub Ninja. I will not be spraying this on the steering wheel and having product get on the gauge clusters here. I don't want any product on these plastics for the gauge cluster and make my life more difficult to not only clean it, but also risk damaging the plastics and glasses and the finishes on the gauge cluster behind the steering wheel. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and saturate my Scrub Ninja a little bit. I'm gonna start working it in. I'll do about the upper half of it. And then probably this half to kind of show you guys the difference. I'm gonna go and throw that Scrub Ninja in my bucket and then lightly and gently buff the steering wheel off, get all that crap off of there. Oh my gosh, it feels so good too. Way better than over here. This is just all like, I don't even know, but right here it's just so supple. All right, I'll stop being weird and show you guys the difference here. The top right here and this half is clean. That's a reflection from right here. And then you could see over here, it's pretty chalky looking. All right, so moving on to this door. I've already finished pretty much the entire cockpit area on the interior, even behind the seat. But now I'm gonna show you how I clean this door. It's pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy. First, I'm going to start by cleaning my Scrub Ninja because it has all that gunk from the interior, or I'm sorry, the cockpit still. And I forgot to mention, but I have a grit guard at the bottom of this, and I kind of just scrape the Scrub Ninja on the ridges of the grit guard to really help break up any dirt that's in the fibers and just release them, So got this guy all ringed out. I'm gonna grab a fresh microfiber here, brand new, never used. Set the bucket to the side, and I'm gonna use one side for this entire door. So I'm just gonna use the white side here, put some product in it, and I'm gonna lightly mist the entire panel. And whenever I spray, obviously product is gonna get up on the window, but I'm not trying to douse the window because it's gonna make my life harder to clean it. This product will leave a streaky finish on windows, but because this towel is nice and fresh, I'm just gonna run it gently along the window to soak up all that product. So that way it's not gonna, smear across the window as I clean it later on. And I'm just gonna go ahead and quickly scrub. Again, this interior isn't in bad condition at all, so I don't really need to spend a lot of time on it, really scrubbing it. There's not a whole lot of embedded dirt and stuff. This Alcantara tends to get pretty grabby when it, is in contact with the fibers of the scrubber. And I am moving quickly because I don't want the product to dry, but if it does dry, that's okay. It's not gonna really harm anything, especially because I'm not working in direct sunlight. It's just gonna it's gonna be splotchy when it dries. And all I gotta do is, if this was at a dry area, all I would have to do is just rework it and then dry it off with my microfiber towel. So I got the bulk of the door done. I'm gonna go ahead and start wiping it off with my microfiber towel. And as I'm wiping, I'm watching the panel. And if I see that the panel is still a little damp after I ran my microfiber towel over it, that means that that side of the microfiber towel is wet. So I'll just flip it over and buff off that residue. And I'll kind of skip over the Alcantara for now. I'll work on this side of the microfiber towel for a little bit. And then once it's a little damp to the touch, I'll come back to the Alcantara and just gently make circles with it. Again, it's pretty grabby when it makes contact with something fibrous. So it's, you know, gonna fight you a little bit here, but that's no problem. So I deal with actually quite a few track cars, more specifically Porsches. And this Alcantara loves to get dirty, and you can't even see the dirt until you get your microfiber towel, put some product on it, and then start running it across the Alcantara, and then the towel comes out just completely black. But this car hasn't been tracked too much, and I'm actually really surprised at how clean this thing is in the grand scheme of things. There's a red GT3 that lives in this garage too that I do pretty regularly, and man, I think it's filthy. We have a clean door. So the only thing that's left to do on this door is the window, and then I gotta vacuum out these felt pockets right here, and it's pretty much done. All right, so whenever it comes to floor mats, carpeted floor mats like this, it's pretty straightforward. I already blew out the car mat from the first step. And I'm only using a couple things here. There's really no reason to introduce a whole bunch of product into this as well as water, so I don't need to extract it with like a shampooing machine, if you will. But I'm using an enzyme cleaner, so it's gonna help kind of freshen this up with the smell, but also it's gonna help release all the debris that is left over in the fibers. So I'm gonna bring you guys in close here in a second, but I'm gonna lightly mist this carpet and then agitate it with this handheld brush really quick, and then I'll vacuum everything up real quick. So you can see all the lines from my blowgun that was imprinted into the carpet. We definitely want to remove these. So this process is really going to help out with this. So I'm going to get my enzyme cleaner and lightly mist the carpet. It doesn't take much, and a lot of this is going to dry up when I go to vacuum. That vacuum is going to help suck up the moisture. Then I'm gonna go ahead and just quickly go through with my brush, just help agitate the fibers a little bit. There's a lot of hair on here, like fuzz and girl hair. So the attachment I'm gonna be using on my vacuum cleaner is called a fur reel. This fur reel is gonna be really, really great at grabbing all this fine hair that the other attachment otherwise probably wouldn't be able to pick up. All right, just like that, she's done. I want to point out this spot right here where the heel goes whenever you're pressing the accelerator. This is the driver's floor mat. Your shoe, the heel of your right shoe is going to live in this spot a lot, and it's going to wear down the fibers. I could bring this back a little bit. I'm not going to, because I just don't have time with the service that was opted in for today. But for the most part, this portion right here is always going to be a little bit more dull than the rest of the mat. Carpet is designed to hold dirt. It's not designed to be perfect for its entire life. It's super simple whenever your mat gets like this. If it drives you crazy and your detailer cannot get this remedied to 100%, just buy a new floor mat. It is not that complicated. You do not have to keep the original floor mats with the car. I mean, you could if you want to. And if you wanted to do that, then don't drive with your floor mats. Get WeatherTech or something. But that's just kind of my 2 cents. All right, so moving on to the exterior. I've completely finished the interior, except a couple things. Got to do some final checks. But moving on to the exterior, the first thing I'm going to do are the wheels and tires and fender liners. I'm using 2 products for this. The first one's going to be Rapid Remover. I'm going to pre-treat the sidewalls here to remove any leftover tire dressing that might still be there, to give the tire a fresh new surface to accept the new tire dressing that I'm going to apply after the detail. And then the second product I'm using is my wheel and tire cleaner. It's called wayyyy by Shine Supply. It's a pretty good wheel cleaner. It's best bang for your buck in my opinion. So yeah, let's go ahead and get to it. I'm gonna go ahead and just spritz this Rapid Remover on the sidewall. Get it nice and saturated. I don't want it drying on me here. And while that soaks for like 30 seconds, I'm just gonna see what's happening. I see that it's kind of seeping into the tire itself, so I think it's time to go ahead and blast off whatever gunk is on here off with the pressure washer. Yeah, I see a lot of old tire residue buildup down here, so that's a really good sign that this stuff is about to work. And that's pretty much that. So what I'm gonna do now is just rinse off the wheel and the fender liner, and then I'll go ahead and start cleaning. I like to spray in the fender liner first, so that way the product can start working for as long as possible, paying attention to the wheel and tire here. So I have just a basic wheel mitt from, I think, Car Supply's warehouse. I'm not sure where I got it. But I start with the face of the wheels and the spokes too, because I don't want to start with the inner barrel here and then bring all that gunk out and then start rubbing that into the face of the wheel here. I'm going to save that for last. Well, really I'm saving the sidewall and then the fender liner for last. Don't forget those lug nuts. I'm just gonna go to town on these wheel barrels here. They were so freaking filthy. All right, so now that the wheels are done, I'm gonna go ahead and pre-treat all the forward-facing panels. I'm mainly doing this because there's some bug guts on the front end of this car and a hood. I'm using it's actually Porsche Cayman Green Star. It's gonna really help break up all these bug guts so that way I can gently remove them off the surface without having to be super aggressive, because although this car is fully PPF'd, I still wanna be careful and not scratch it, because you can scratch PPF just like you could scratch paint. There is the self-healing aspect of it, but the self-healing doesn't last forever, and you can't always bet on the self-healing properties to be there on the car as you're working on it. I personally just take the approach of treating every car the same when it comes to caring for the painted surfaces. So I think that'll about do it for the Green Star. I'm gonna go ahead and foam it up, give it a pre-soak, so that way all the other dirt has time to kind of break up, and then I can go ahead and rinse it off. I'm just using a pH balance soap in my foam cannon here. Nothing too crazy. I don't need this wash to be super aggressive. It just needs a little bit of love here. I'm going to mix this product in with the water. Should be good. So I'm just using a soft bristle brush by CarPro to get in this gas cap. I want to break away any debris, dirt, grime. Maybe the owner spilled a little bit of gas in here. It's gonna help really clean it up. I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick rinse of the pre-foam to remove any loose grime or dirt off of the surface, so that way when I go to do my contact wash with the wash mitt, it's gonna reduce the risk of scratching. And this process isn't gonna take long. I'm not gonna be super thorough with it. The final and last rinse will be the most thorough rinse. All right, I'm gonna go and foam this up real quick. So the reason why I do the one bucket method is because I personally believe that once you dip a dirty wash mitt into a bucket and then into another bucket, and maybe even a third bucket or a fourth bucket, it's still gonna be dirty, and you're just gonna start cross-contaminating your water and that same wash mitt, and that's just gonna completely increase the chance of scratching the surface. Whereas if you do a pre-soak and then a rinse and then foam again without introducing a dirty wash mitt to a bucket, then you're just gonna be a lot less likely to scratch the surface. So I was using the gray side on that first half. I'm gonna flip it to the blue side and go ahead and do the same here. All right, now that the contact wash is done, I just have to do a final rinse real quick, and then I'm gonna blow dry it, and then do a drying process. Also, this is gonna be a pretty thorough rinse. I wanna get all the soap and dirt out of the cracks and crevices, so I'm gonna take my time with it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start blow drying the car. I wanna remove most of the water that I can, because otherwise my towel's gonna get loaded up with water and it's not gonna really be able to dry that well, especially because I am using a drying aid today. But this blower is especially important for the wheels, but the tires mostly. I wanna get these tires, these tires need to be bone dry in order to accept my tire dressing. So I wanna make sure that I thoroughly dry all the tires at the least. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with this. Need hearing protection because this thing is loud and I'm trying to preserve my ear holes. So you'll notice that the panel's still wet. A lot of that blow drying just gets out all the water and all the cracks and crevices, so there's not constant water drip even after the detail's done. Also, the contact drying, like what you see me doing here, is going to be my protection step as well. So I'm using Obsessed Garage's drying aid. This is definitely by far the best drying aid I've ever used. It lasts longer than anything I've used. And I probably used pretty much everything on the market almost. You know, Tech 589 or whatever that stuff is called doesn't compete. Any Turtle Wax products doesn't compete. I even tried, you could use rinseless, I guess, but there's no protection of rinseless unless if it's like a graphene rinseless or SiO2 rinseless, which I also have tried. H2O by CarPro, which is kind of like a waterless wash that you could use as a quick detailer. But it has SiO2 in it, and it's okay. I wasn't too impressed by the slickness of it. The protection side of things is probably the second best in a drying aid, but Obsessed Garage, there's no beating it. It's pretty expensive though, it's not cheap, but it is so worth it. Even for a DIYer, it's just amazing. All right, so now it's time to dry the tires. I'm using Obsessed Garage's tire dressing. Best tire dressing ever. He's got the best tire dressing and drying aid. Those are the only two products that I found so far that's, the absolute best from him. For my personal taste, I like a very OE, original finish to the tire. You can see here, it's super, super bare. There's barely any blooming in it, which is the brown that you see in most tire sidewalls when they're, bare and dirty. But so when I dress tires, I use this Suds Lab applicator. I freaking love these things. They're super cheap. I get them at Walmart, and I will go ahead and generously apply my tire dressing in the applicator. And then without using too much force, I'm just gonna go ahead and barely skim the surface to start laying out the product. And as I go around, I'll apply more pressure. Start working it in back and forth like this. I probably won't go down here because the floor is still wet. I'll save that for last. And I'll come slightly into the tread. And then I'll use the edge of my applicator to get in this lip of the tire. So that way that is all nice and uniform. Actually, I need to apply a little bit more dressing to it. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna let this sit for about 10-15 minutes. It still has a wet look to it. I wanna let this dry and really cure into the tire. And whenever it's done drying, I'm gonna take an old microfiber towel that I just will not use anymore and buff down the rest of this tire. All right, so now that it's been a few minutes, it's still a little blotchy, but that's okay, that's to be expected. That's why we're gonna go ahead and buff her off. It's gonna help get rid of all that blotchiness. All right, and this is a central detailed tire. It's got like no sheen to it whatsoever. It looks OE. I love it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that was our full detail. That was the starting package that we offer here at Central Detail. We do offer 2 other packages that are a little higher end, but I'll cover those in other videos. But today, yeah, it was just a simple interior exterior detail. Again, like I said, it's just our starting package. So there's no polishing or paint correction, which is by design because a lot of the vehicles that we do service are either ceramic coated or already PPF'd, but you can't really polish either of those. So there's no sense in including things like polishing and stuff like that in a starting package. If you are interested in a detail, go ahead and reach out to us. Our number is 386-561-4797, or you can click the link in the description. It'll take you to our website. You could browse around all the different services that we offer. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You might be like the 3rd person that does on this video. This is, I think this will be the 2nd, if not the 1st full-length video that I post to YouTube. So yeah, also follow us on Instagram if you want. Our Instagram is way better than YouTube. Yeah, that link is in the description as well. All right, catch y'all next time.